The Three Down Greencast is brought to you by the Pile of Bones Brewing Company. New taproom now open at Sass Drive and Cameron in Regina. Well, welcome to the Three Down Greencast with myself, Joel Gasson, and John Fraser. And yes, we are back after a bit of an unplanned hiatus. As full disclosure, we were planning to record an episode last week, but then life kind of got in the way in some different ways. And then we were going to do one over the weekend, and then we're going to do one earlier in this week. And so last week, John kind of bailed on me, and there was a legitimate reason for it, and all that was fine. Then Sunday came around, and he wasn't quite as enthusiastic about recording. Still wasn't quite as enthusiastic about recording on Tuesday, and he came up with these so-called reasons why. Something about his birthday and moving a couch and all this kind of stuff. But really at the heart of the whole thing, I think John wanted to avoid talking about yet another epic bomber collapse in the eastern part of Canada, where they blew another 20-plus point lead. At least this time it was to a good team this time, John.
Yeah, that's fair. No, that is, and that was Joel. You have found me out. Actually, a friend of mine, she just bought a house who I curl with, and I was, for the first time in my life, going, please let me help you move your stuff into your homestead, just so I would hopefully avoid, talking to you and then, having 2 days of birthday parties. And I thought I had gotten away with it, Joel, but blast, you damn kids, you foiled me again.
Yeah, but really, wow. Twice in one season, the Bombers managed to do that. I mean, obviously, that's not really why you bailed on us. We know you more than anyone love to shit all over the Bombers when they deserve it, and and it was funny. I remember Rob Van Stone on Twitter was starting to talk about leaving that game at one point when they were up by 24 points or whatever it was, and it just turned instantly then. So you can maybe thank the old Van Stone drinks for that one, but just epic, and it's not good news for the Bombers because they are proving to have difficulty closing games, is what we're learning about them.
Oh, absolutely, and it's been so frustrating as a Bomber fan to see a team play so well in that first half, and I don't know if it falls on the coaching staff or the players or whoever's fault it is, but you've gone into halftime twice in the East with massive leads you absolutely should not blow. The Montreal one is maybe a bit more justifiable because, as you alluded to, Montreal is actually a good football team. Toronto is not a good football team, and it was just I don't know, I don't know if they just don't have the mental fortitude to go in at halftime and make those adjustments and be ready for the counterpunch. It always seems like they just come out so flat and they just play vanilla. And the offense disappears and the defense disappears because, again, they go to the base playbook that when you're playing Madden, when you're first beginning, it's like play 1, play 2, play 3. That's all they seem to be doing whenever they go into with these big leads at halftime. And now this is a Winnipeg team, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later on the show, the importance of a home playoff game this year in the CFL. Mm-hmm. The fact is, this is a team that should be 11-2.
Yeah.
But they are not. And
they could even be 12-1, really.
Yeah. And instead, because of their inability to close games, they are instead in a position where they're in this hellish mix in the West Division that's going to come right down to the final week. And for Rider fans, the Bombers' constant ineptitude and way to just continue to be the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. That's just so Winnipeg. Just blowing massive leads in a season in which you could be on cruise control to a bye in the West Division final at IG Field or whatever the hell that parking nightmare is called. Why? Have I lived in Saskatchewan long enough that I can just adopt a team? If this isn't the year, I am strongly considering it.
I think the only silver lining you could maybe take from this is that maybe for once the Bombers are getting their massive choking out of the way early.
Oh no, they'll find a way to blow it. Yeah, I know they will. They will learn from this, and they'll have tape on this, and they'll be a big and an East semifinal because they'll keep choking away games, or West semifinal, pardon me, and just blow it. Just blow it. They'll go way too vanilla on defense near the end of a game and just blow it. And that's because that's just what Winnipeg does.
And Richie Hall will blame communication again for some reason.
Exactly. Well, we can't communicate. No, Richie, you're playing the prevent. All prevent does is prevent you from winning. God, I had such a hard time. He was a guest speaker at the Saskatoon Men's Bonspiel a couple years ago. I had a hard time, not just and I respect the hell out of the man for what he's done, what he's overcome, the person he is. He's a great human being. Part of me still just wanted to go, Richie, learn to be aggressive. You kind of suck sometimes. You suck. You're the suckiest bunch of sucks who ever sucked.
Well, he's not the Ottawa Red Blacks.
Oh, that's fair. That is a dumpster fire right now. That is I love that even in their first year they had hope, and now it's just a shit show. Rotating quarterbacks. What is this, the preseason? The GM coming out and saying, I'm at the cap, but maybe I should have reevaluated quarterbacks. No shit, Sherlock.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with them, we're at the point where we're talking about some Ottawa Renegades seasons were better than this one.
That's true. No, you're not wrong there, Joel. That's starting to get in cringeworthy. But hey, unlike Winnipeg in the past, 30 years, they've won a Grey Cup.
They did. They absolutely did.
Yeah.
Yep. So before we get into the bulk of this episode, where we're going to talk about Jordan Williams-Lambert and specifically who should come out of the lineup for how long and all that, because that's kind of the topic du jour here in Saskatchewan right now. We're going to talk about the game coming up this weekend against the Argos, kind of big picture what that means and how important the stretch drive is in the next few games for this team is going to be in terms of determining really their fate this season probably. And then we're going to close it out by talking about some beef or fake beef or whatever you want to call it, and how nonsensical that whole situation has turned into. But before we get into all that, I would be remiss if we did not discuss the departure of, as he put it, our lazy, shiftless bastard, Drew Edwards, our once fearless leader, who is apparently now just so fearful that he has decided to part ways with 3 Down Nation for very understandable reasons. He wrote a really great piece for 3 Down Nation because, as he's always said, don't put it on social media, make it a post. And so he did that this week for 3 Down Nation, where he laid out the reasons why he's leaving. You can check that out on the website still, obviously. In a nutshell, work-life balance. He has some, philosophical issues with the game of football, which I think we can all relate to a little bit on some level.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it all made sense, but I'd be remiss if we did not wish Drew well in his future endeavors, as he, as some people put it, went to save journalism at the Spec in Hamilton, as he goes back to, or I guess continues in the world of journalism, just more so on a news front compared to sports, as he's taking on a web editor role there, which he will certainly be great at, considering he managed a bunch of buffoons and made us look credible online. So, Drew, we wish you nothing but the best, buddy. I know there's been some great stuff put out there. John Hodge had a tweet with all his thoughts on Drew, and I know Ryan Ballantyne and Justin Dunk wrote these great pieces on their thoughts on Drew. For me, it's a lot shorter. It was, obviously, he took a big shot on those guys because they didn't really have the history per se. I was working in radio. I covered sports for a little while. But he took a flyer on a guy that was not in media at the time. I was let go. And I can't thank Drew enough, because this has really opened up a lot of different avenues that I probably never would have thought I would have gone down in sort of enjoyment of sports and being in sports media. So, Drew, thanks a lot for the opportunity. And most importantly, I guess in the context of this podcast, thanks for letting us do this and for continuing to allow John Fraser to appear on this podcast for some reason.
I'm not going to lie. When Drew put up his article why he was leaving, I went Control F, went Fraser, and I was not listed among the reasons. But in all seriousness, you're right. I was in a spot in which you and I had always, we've been very good friends for a very long time. We've always mused about finally getting an opportunity to work together, and Drew gave us that chance. And now we just have to make sure that we, bribe Justin Dunk with enough beer that we can keep doing that, because by all accounts, I have no credibility anymore. I'm kind of loud, and yeah. So thank you, Drew, for giving us the opportunity to work together to do this on a weekly basis. And in all seriousness, all the best of luck in your new endeavor into the newsroom. I hated doing news, so good for you, Drew. I hope you don't hate doing news. Obviously, you don't, because you are doing news now.
Yeah, it seems like he enjoys it, and I think most importantly, on top of all, Drew's still a great friend. He's one of the nicest guys you will ever meet in this industry, and I'm sure we'll still see him around the ballpark every once in a while. And I put it out on Twitter because I think the only way Drew Edwards really should go out in terms of his CFL coverage career is whether it's in Calgary this year or more likely Hamilton next year. He needs to do one more every team party and one night crawl, like that epic one they did with John Cornish a few years ago.
Yeah, they had John Cornish. Darren Bombing from TSN was there. I remember Bombing and I used to talk a little bit back then. Yeah, that is, I'm not going to lie. That is one of the things that, like, if that is happening again, there's all my motivation to come to the Grey Cup and finally use those, the ability to be credentialed media again under 3 Down Nation, which apparently I'm allowed to do.
Yeah, well, we can try at least,
What's the worst that happens? They say no, and I just, hold up a sign outside that says tickets?
Maybe. I mean, next year that isn't Regina. You obviously have a place to crash, so I imagine we'll try to work something out then.
Oh, hell yeah. I've already pre-reserved my room at your new place there, Joel. By the way, a quick congratulations to your broadcast audience. Joel Gasson, man, bought himself a house. Now I got lots of room to come and crash and stay, and I'm going to take advantage of that.
What have I done? So
you done effed up, Joel.
Yeah.
You done effed up.
Something like that. So, in honor of Drew Edwards, I guess, a man who also loves a good beer, John, what's in the glass this week?
Well, because I knew I was going to have a bomber rant coming up, I've already finished the first beer that I started consuming, which near the end of the year, part of my birthday gift, as usual, my wife has made it a tradition to just start buying me a shitload of craft beer. So I'm going with, it's going to be a 2-beer podcast, but thankfully, neither beer very strong. First off, I've already finished the Rebellion Cerveza. Mm-hmm. As summer quickly fades away into winter. Nice end of the summer. It's kind of been my beer of the summer. And now to crack. Let's see if we hear. There we go. A little bit warmer on the bones, but still nice and light, that being a Rebellion Lentil. Can't go wrong with a couple of 4% beers when it's a 2 tall boy night, because I knew I'd be talking about the Blue Bombers and needed to take the edge off.
Yeah, so she bought you a Rebellion mixer pack is what happened.
No, actually.
Oh, no, really? Wow.
No, it wasn't even a mixer pack. She went to the store, came back with 4 hazies, which are gone. Mm-hmm. Of course, yeah. She just went to the co-op liquor store by our house that doesn't have Pile of Bones yet. So she's like, well, I knew you like Pile of Bones, and I know you like Rebellion. So she stocked up on some Cerveza, some Lentil, and some hazy. And yeah, it was a nice little surprise there before the birthday on Monday.
Sounds like a good day. For me, this is a brand new beer just out over the weekend, I do believe. It is the new multinational Raspberry Milkshake IPA of Destiny.
I like the of Destiny. That just makes it more intriguing.
Yeah, so if you don't know the backstory, I guess kind of it's a little bit of a play. They've had a few other, fruited milkshake IPA of Doom, is what they've called a few of them. So I guess This is what is more like the positive outtake, the positive turn. This is like the protagonist in this case in their little beer world of the Doom versus Destiny. I don't know. It's very raspberry. It's very delicious. It's my first time trying it. We just got a shipment of cans to Happy Hour today. It is co-brewed by District, so that's ones they may be shipping out across the province depending on who gets their hands on ordering it, but I don't think it's a big batch like their normal sports is, per se.
Yeah, it's always interesting. I don't think I've had a crack at any of the strawberry milkshake or cherry or anything like that. I've never I've haven't had the opportunity to go give it a try, but I'm glad you've been sampling them, and mostly rave reviews, I'd say, Joel.
Yeah, for the most part. I love a good milkshake IPA, though. It is partially because the season is turning, and I've been walking around the store for a bit of work and looking, and the Blackbridge Robust Porter is sitting there now, and I'm just like, Yeah, it's kind of about that time, isn't it?
It really is. It really, once after you get Snowpocalypse in October this weekend, I would definitely say it is. And hey, if you want refuge from Snowpocalypse, where there's still going to be grass on the ground after the weekend, just come crash here. It's only a 2.5 hour commute to Happy Hour from my place.
I'm going to be in Ottawa next week anyway, so I mean,
way to dodge that bullet.
We leave on Saturday for a week. I will still be watching the game. We'll still be podcasting, so it's not like a cut off from the work world vacation. But yeah, going back to the hometown for a little bit for some reasons. So back to his hometown of sorts. Jordan Williams-Lambert back in his CFL hometown a couple weeks ago, signed with the team. Obviously didn't play in the first game because he wouldn't have been ready in time, and that there's a lot of adjustment back from the NFL and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
And then it was the bye week. So this is probably really the first chance for Jordan Williams-Lambert to potentially crack the Rider lineup. And he could be coming at a good time because the offense, as much as there's still a lot of praise for Cody Fajardo, and he's certainly been there when they really needed him to. It's kind of felt a little overall like the offense has been stuck in the mud a little bit the last little while. It hasn't really quite reached the level it did earlier in the season. So maybe Williams-Lambert could be a bit of a spark plug to help get it going again a little bit if he can adjust back from the NFL game, which we have seen players that come back from the NFL midseason into the CFL, especially at receiver, kind of struggle a little bit.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see how he handles that. But really the question right now is, how is he going to get into the lineup? And on Wednesday, Craig Dickinson was asked that at practice. And he responded in a way that really got people talking around here, because he said if Jordan Williams-Lambert were to play either Manny Arsenault, no surprise, or Naaman Roosevelt would be coming out of the lineup. And so instantly, like a siren across Saskatchewan went off saying, what? Naaman Roosevelt might be coming out of the lineup? And I get it. I get it on a level because, okay, Naaman isn't putting up the gaudy numbers he used to. He isn't making the circus catches he used to, but he is that key release valve on second down. He is the possession guy. He makes the big catch when you need a conversion. There's no question about it.
Yes.
He plays a very important role in this offense, and he's resurrected his career after a couple of injury-filled years, thanks to kind of that veteran savvy that he has now.
Yes, absolutely.
So I understand why people raise their eyebrow at this a little bit. Now, I will raise my eyebrow a little bit too if this is a long-term decision by the team. Mm-hmm. Then there's obviously A, Craig Dickinson has lost his mind, or B, there's something with Naaman Roosevelt's game that we don't know about. But to me, there's two reasons why this is the decision that's being on his mind right now, Jordan Williams-Lambert's play. Number one, he's just throwing another name out there for the sake of it, to keep the other team guessing a little bit, but the answer is Manny Arsenault. Because that's probably what it should be. Yes. And that's fine. I get it. He's kind of being honest without having to be directly honest. Keep Toronto guessing a little bit, even though they probably don't really need to.
It's true.
Or the other option is, yes, it is in fact actually Naaman Roosevelt, but it's probably, in my opinion, only for one game. And I don't think that is necessarily the worst decision this team could make. And here's why. We saw it even before the bye week where they took on Montreal, and Charleston Hughes, the news came out, I think, it was on the website, where he wasn't injured, but he was sore. And all of a sudden he was, kind of a late scratch in that game kind of thing. And he didn't play. And they got through it. It was against an Eastern team at home. There was a bye week coming up. It made sense to give Charleston Hughes, who has been known to fade a little bit down the stretch, a game off, to use a basketball term, a little bit of load management on Charleston Hughes.
I don't know why. That term always makes me giggle.
Because you're immature. And then
that's clearly it.
And then so now we're coming out of the bye week, and you've got another veteran player who maybe doesn't fade, but has a bit of a history of injuries lately, and you have an opportunity where you're going east to maybe give him a little more rest for one game. I don't think that's a bad thing. Yeah. I think they can survive a game without Naaman Roosevelt when you're inserting Jordan Williams-Lambert. So yeah, you kick the can down the road a little bit, where you have to make the decision to either tell Manny Arsenault that he has, something's up with his knee and he should probably go in the sixth game for a bit, or you decide to, put Kyron Moore on the bench, or there's a decision that you have to make later down the road of that. But at least for now, you're getting Jordan Williams-Lambert to the game. You're giving Naaman Roosevelt a little bit of rest. heading into a really important stretch of the season afterwards, which we'll get into. So I can see Craig Dickinson's thinking where we're saying, okay, we have this veteran guy. He's probably a little banged up because he's taking some hits like he always does, and he's not going to take himself out of the lineup, so I'm going to force his hand to take a game off, especially coming off a bye week going into Toronto.
No, and you're absolutely right, Joel. I mean, especially a guy coming off a couple years of injuries that hasn't played a full season. And to me, you are going to need... Naaman Roosevelt is the kind of receiver that always will win you playoff games, right? That ability to, the sure-handedness, the veteran ability to get open. He's seen it all before. He's a tough guy to cover. And you mentioned he's the release valve. He's not the guy that's going to put up the gaudy stats, but he's the first read when it comes to a 2nd and 8, a 2nd and 5, right? And I think what you're doing a little bit as well, to look at the other angle, is you are telling Manny Arsenault, who has largely been a bust in Saskatchewan so far. He hasn't been himself. Now, again, recovering from knee surgery like he did at his age is no easy feat. It's amazing he's even back on the field, and that's no discredit to the work he's put in there. But he is definitely not looked like the Manny Arsenault we've all known and love, especially Rod Black, all of these years. So I think if you're taking Naaman out, I think the motivation is health-related in a game against Toronto, and perhaps you are going to Manny Arsenault and saying, okay, there's not room for you. We need you to step up, because I can't see a world, because he also plays specials and he's young and to me he's got more speed in him these days. I can't see he hasn't had the numbers, but I can't see a spot in which you're taking Kyran Moore out of the game. I can't. I mean, Manny Arsenault...
I think Kyran Moore brings a dimension to the offense where even if he's not really involved, that the other team still has to respect, and that's important too.
Oh, absolutely. And I think with between Shaq Evans, who is definitely the team's best receiver these days, Naaman Roosevelt is your release valve, gonna have Jordan Williams-Lambert and Kyran Moore all out there. Like, those are 4 guys you have to respect for their different variety of talents at all times, right? And I like the idea of, okay, maybe we're lighting a fire on a Manny. We're giving Naaman Roosevelt a little bit of help, because to me, I don't care what Jordan Williams-Lambert does against Toronto.
No.
As long as he can get out there, he can run around, he can look like himself. I mean, he's just one of those freak athletes. I mean, he's tall, he's long, he's fast. That's why he got a look in the NFL, right? He's prototypical NFL receiver to me, and it's a shame he wasn't able to stick down there. But to me, the guy that you really need to see perform, to see really if he still has it, is Manny Arsenault. Because you're going to have to make a decision, and I think you and I both know, and all jokes aside, they can probably find some long ailment to stash him on the 6-game injured list in case you need him come the postseason or something like that. But you got to see if he's got anything left, and to me, this is a big game in Toronto for Manny Arsenault's career.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, and so that's why, and there's a lot of reasons why, and I think there's precedent that Craig Dickinson has set that he's willing to sit guys that maybe it feels a little unorthodox when Hughes didn't play, and we know the training camp was a lot lighter this year compared to it's been in past years, and so he clearly thinks about these things, and 1 game out of 18 isn't the end of the world to miss. They'll find a way. He's not going to be late. They'll probably make him the healthy scratch rather than 1 game, or they'll 1 game him so he still gets his salary for that game. It's not like they're going to screw him and put him on the PR for the game or anything like that. But
yeah,
so that's kind of where it has to go. And I think it's important that if you have a chance to rest a guy who you think might need it, you should do it. And I think it's a thing that basketball is getting as a sport right now. And I think the other sports, especially the major team sports, need to start figuring this out, that yes, every game is sacred and every season is sacred and all that, but realistically, you play a lot of games in a season for every sport, respectively. If you sit a guy for 1 game, you should be able to trust your depth to overcome it. We've seen teams in the NBA sometimes rest like 2 or 3 of their starters in the same freaking game and still win. Like, it shouldn't be an issue if if you sit one of your best players in a game, you should still be able to win. And coming off a bye against one of the worst teams in the league on the road is probably a good a spot as any to do that, especially when we're going to get into this now, where you look at what's coming up for this team, where you're going to need everyone firing on all cylinders after this game, which is not going to be an easy game for them because Toronto is better than they were, and they have to travel east and all that kind of stuff that can happen and get in your way and all that. So it's not going to be an easy game in Toronto by any stretch of the imagination, even if, everyone is playing. But the point still remains, whatever happens in this football game, they should win. They need to win, because coming up is 5 games against the West, a majority of them on the road, including 3 straight on the road, thanks to some hockey game being in town here. So this is a key. This might be one of the toughest stretches we've seen this team have to go through in a number of years, considering it's the most important games of the year. You're away from home a lot, and there is no break for 5 games, because as bad as they've been and as bad as they were earlier in the year, I think the Lions are playing a little looser now, and they're going to probably present you with a challenge. So, get everyone as ready as you can for the stretch while still doing everything you can to win this game this weekend.
Well, and I think with the emergence and for all my anger about Winnipeg looking like shit coming out of halftime, let's give credit to the Montreal Alouettes. I think it's fair to say, and you said it before the pod, that I don't think the West crossover is guaranteed of even making it out of the East semifinal this year.
No, and let's be honest here. Barring something stupid happening, that's going to be Edmonton. So I think we're pretty confident that they're not going to go East and beat either of those teams.
No, I mean, the bottom could fall. I mean, let's face it. You go through this stretch of games here like Saskatchewan is, the bottom would need to absolutely fall out, and this team is too good for that to happen. But, there's still the remote possibility that you are going to want to be. I think this year more than any, with how close teams are and how good everybody is, especially when healthy, you are going to want that home playoff game. And yeah, I don't think there's. I mean, it brings me back to an interesting point too. We're talking about giving guys some rest. Charleston Hughes and Naaman Roosevelt. I remember when word leaked before the NFL season, the league and the Players Association were looking at moving to the CFL's 18-game season, but the players only playing a maximum of 16 games.
Yep.
So that to me, I just find interesting that, there's only so much a human body can take over a football season. And, you need your guys for the most important part of the year. And 3 games against the West here, all coming up, all with, such crucial playoff positioning on the line. I like the move. I'd like to see them rest a couple more guys, because this part of the season, you said it, BC's playing loose. They know they're out of it. They're just trying to figure each other out. They're having some fun. They're chucking the ball around. That's a dangerous team. You never want to play a team with nothing to lose, and that's what BC is right now.
Yeah, no, and then you've got a game against Winnipeg, and you got a couple against Edmonton. So this is not going to be an easy stretch for this team at all. And everything needs to be ready. And I really feel if you're the crossover team, and probably even if you're third in the West this year, I don't think you're going anywhere. I have a hard time believing anyone in the CFL this year, and it happens so rarely anyway, that you can go through 2 road games and get to the Grey Cup. I just don't see it. So you need at the very least to finish second in the West to have a shot at getting to the Grey Cup, in my opinion. Even then, it's still going to be a tough road, because then you still got to play a pretty darn good team in your home building and then go to either Winnipeg or Calgary, depending on how it all plays out. If it's Calgary especially, then everyone's really in trouble, because we all know how that story usually ends. So
it's true.
It's really is it going to be such a fascinating drive in the West toward the end of the regular season. All year we've talked about, who is this team? Who are they? How good are they actually? Well, we're really about to find out. And if they pull up their pants and they can secure a home playoff game out of this, then they need to be taken seriously. If they can't, then that was a good season, but it's going to be a long shot.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Again, if they don't perform like they can, like they should, like they need to in this upcoming stretch, this has been the build season, leading up to the Grey Cup being, at home, right? So But still, this team is still good enough, and heading into the tough part of the season where what wins you football games is ball control and defense. But as the weather gets colder, which it is suddenly all of a sudden getting in Saskatchewan, seemingly out of nowhere, or I guess all the way across Western Canada, this is the time of the year that you're right. You need those victories. You need to play that hard-nosed football and give your guys a rest, have all your guys firing, because you're right. We are about to find out. You and I are both on the record of thinking the Saskatchewan Roughriders are among the Grey Cup contenders in the CFL. But hey, if you go out and you drop the next couple games against the West Division, it's all of a sudden becoming a completely different ball of wax. Maybe they are getting exposed. Maybe everybody that's been saying all year, who have they played? Maybe they could be right. We are going to find out here very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're also it looks like they could be getting another key addition as well on top of Jordan Williams-Lambert. Brendan Labatt is back practicing with the team, which is just absolutely massive to get at this time of year, because the offensive line without him has been very good. There's no question about it. They've had their ups and their downs a little bit at times, but if you could insert Brendan Labatt into the lineup at this key portion at this time of the year, and he's been injured at times throughout his career, so I'm not worried about any rust in terms of Brendan Labatt coming back. He's done it times before. He'll be fine. He'll come in and be an instant upgrade, probably over Dariusz Bladek.
Yep.
And it will just instantly make that group so much better, and that will make a huge difference for the run game, for the pass protection, because it has sprung a little bit of a leak at times over the last little while, as I think teams have kind of figured out what they're doing a little bit, and Stephen McAdoo has been known to be a little slow to adjust at times to what's going on around him. Mm-hmm. So I think that'll be big. And that's another huge addition to this team that I have obviously a lot of attention on Naaman Roosevelt and Jordan Williams-Lambert right now, because they're flashy players and offense sells tickets and all that kind of thing. But if Brendan Labatt comes back in and that offensive line starts humming, especially if it starts to snow around here, look out.
Yeah, and you're right, Joel. Without Brendan Labatt, his impact, as you mentioned, he's had some injury problems, as any veteran offensive lineman is going to have seemingly these days. It's such a tough position to play. And every other year that Brendan Labatt's gone on the lineup, it's just been a dumpster fire.
Essentially, yeah.
Exactly. For a minute, I thought you were actually farting, and that was amazing.
No, I can't actually fart that loud for that long.
Which is why I was kind of amazed, for the record. But yeah, every other year, as you said, it has just been trash whenever Brendan Labatt has missed time. This year, it's been like, even for me, it was like, oh yeah, Labatt's been hurt for a while. Huh. It hasn't been a total dumpster. Wait, he's coming back? So you know that they're going to go from, good to very good with Brendan Labatt coming back at the right time of year. And you're right, huge addition to come back. And just I love Labatt. He's one of the best guys to talk to on the team. Like you and I have talked before. Now they're both out of, outside of doing this podcast, we're both out of the daily grind of crappy player interviews and scrums in which you're getting an elbow in the arm from some reporter from some defunct newspaper here in the city, or, smelling who's had coffee that morning on their breath because you're all tight together. Now that we're out of that grind, we root for guys we like. Brendan Labatt is a guy I like.
Oh yeah, always has time for everyone, and one of the good dudes in the game. And the offensive line in general is going to be really interesting to watch over the next while. Labatt's coming back, and then you have the potential for Philip Blake and Cofield coming back as well. So there's going to be decisions that are going to have to be made there, because Dakota Shepley's playing very well, and it might be difficult to take him out of the lineup at this point. So what do you do? And it's a very good problem to have for this team, and it's coming at a good time where they're going to need the offensive line to be playing at their best, because as we know, as you said, ball control kind of takes over this time of year, run game kind of takes over this kind of year, and this is where William Powell is going to earn his paycheck as well.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, there's a guy that I'm very glad for the Riders' sake that they have behind that offensive line. It's going to be you're going to need to win that brand of football, and I think they can, which I think will put a little less stress on Cody Fajardo. As much as we love our Jesus sprinkles, it is going to be nice to see that, he doesn't have to win them games anymore. He can just go out and, take it down a notch. And I think it's going to end up very well for everybody.
One brand that has kind of been in the news recently, and maybe not in a positive way in Saskatchewan, has been fast food chain A&W. as there was, and I remember I made note of it. It was a number of months ago. They had the signs up that they were shooting the commercial out at the tailgate before the game. I can't remember which game it was where they said A&W was shooting, where I saw the sign saying A&W is filming a commercial today, blah, 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 blah. Naturally, I was not wearing anything Rider related because I, number one, don't own anything Rider related. Two, I would never wear it to the stadium where I'm going to work. So
that's true.
Naturally,
there's a certain degree of professionalism.
Yeah. So naturally, as much as I would like to be approached by A&W guy, I was not. I didn't even see him anywhere. So as far as I can tell, he's still a fictional character to me, not a real person. But he obviously did talk to some people on this one, and and they had the commercial, and they did the normal commercial where he's talking to people in the streets, because apparently that's their whole marketing campaign now, is just talking to people in the streets about burgers. Which would be a great job to have, because, I mean, who doesn't love burgers?
That's true. Great cut, grease up. You got it.
Absolutely. And so, but this commercial got people talking, and naturally it did in Saskatchewan, number one, because it involved the, Rider fans. Number two, it's because it was for the Beyond Meat burger. And I can't believe we even have to get into how nonsensical this whole stupid thing is.
But we do.
There are, it seems on the prairies especially, and I think if even more so in Saskatchewan and probably in Alberta, I don't know why, there's just a weird sensitivity about meat alternative products, I guess is what they're called. Mm-hmm. And before we get into all this, yes, I enjoy beef, I like meat, but I've tried some of these alternatives too, and they taste pretty darn good, and that's fine.
They do, yeah, you're right.
They taste fine. It's not going to be in my regular diet. But whatever, I mean, it's a burger. It's not supposed to be healthy anyway, so, people get into the arguments of semantics as whether this is actually healthier than beef or not. It's a burger! So...
It's true.
Wrong. Yeah, so then the Sask Cattlemen's Association, or whatever they're called, gets their backup on this one. That the riders are somehow involved. It's like, well, they're a sponsor of the team that's allowed to use our brand, so they did. And for some reason, throughout all this whole thing, because of that, the riders felt the need to apologize for their brand appearing in this commercial. And it's just absolutely ridiculous that they felt the need to do this. It's whatever it's done, they've done it. For some reason, they felt the need to. I don't think they should have had to, because everyone involved in this whole thing, and it's mostly, a certain demographic of people that are upset about this, about these products even existing. And they get upset about it. And I see it on Facebook all the time, and all these memes and, articles and stuff about, what's wrong with these products and blah, 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 blah. Eat meat instead and the whole thing. It's like, guys, not a single person on earth is telling, well, I guess there are people who are, but generally speaking, none of these brands, no one is directly telling you to stop eating beef. If you want to eat beef, that's fine. That's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I do, you do, I'm sure most of you listening do. If you want to eat plant-based alternatives, go for it. I don't care. It doesn't affect my life at all what the hell you're eating. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't affect my life at all if some brand is promoting it. Because guess what? Historically speaking, A&W has produced beef or chicken or whatever the hell hot dog are made of products.
Ooh, the whistle dog, yes.
Yeah, and so now they are trying to capture a market that has generally not purchased fast food because there was no real options for them besides French fries. So that's what they are doing now, and for some reason, people are mad about that. Because these products that aren't beef exist. Like, it's been around forever. It's been around forever, you guys. These options have been around. There have been tofu burgers and all these different things forever. They actually just start to taste decent now. And I just don't understand why people are getting so caught up and have bent out of shape what people are eating. If you don't like it, and it's not for you, go for it. Who cares? This is supposed to be a free country, isn't it? Like, so why does it matter? Just get over it.
Well, and the short-sightedness, Joel, to add to your points, I agree with you 1,000,000%. The primary ingredients in a Beyond Meat burger are peas and lentil, along with other, voodoo, wizardry, and bullshit.
And then there isn't, in fairness, there is some stuff in there that isn't naturally that great for you. But I know where you're going with this, so I'm going to let you go with it.
But again, it's like, so you would think, my logical brain thinks, okay, I have friends that are vegetarians, vegans. They would never touch that product. They would not be consuming Saskatchewan lentils, Saskatchewan peas, and all that other stuff. So really, all you're doing by eating the delicious non-beefy burgers is giving people more access to Saskatchewan foods. And why are we angry about this? Oh, yeah. Get a little sensitive about the beef issue here.
Mm-hmm.
People are always probably going to eat meat. Unless there's some sort of like apocalypse with the meat, like in the movie Interstellar with the corn and all the cows just die. People are still going to eat beef. Let them do it. But also let them enjoy it. Like, are people bitching that I'm drinking a lentil beer? You know?
Well, no, not directly, but there are weird people out there who still shit all over craft beer for kind of the same sort of hippy-dippy kind of reasons, right?
It's true, but look at it. It's people, you now have an option in a different form to enjoy parts of Saskatchewan, and you're angry about it to the point that the riders needed to apologize.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what this really reminded me of? All of this, Joel?
What?
Hockey Twitter.
And those people are probably very big hockey fans, so it makes sense.
Oh, 100%. This had like hockey Twitter, like the outrage over nothing, the short-sightedness, the like rallying cry, the fact the team had to put out an apology. This was hockey Twitter. It creeped into football. Don't let that happen again, because hockey Twitter's the worst.
Yeah, and the other argument that I've seen around about these meat alternative products, and I've seen some places in the States where there's people trying to petition to have these things not called burgers. And I'm like, what?
What?
Like, I could be wrong on this, but is the burger not just a type of sandwich? Because chicken burgers, turkey burgers, fish burgers, all these sorts of things have existed forever. Do you have issues with those things being called burgers, or is it only a meat allowed to be called burger?
Lacey's had a portobello mushroom burger. Mm-hmm. Actually, back to hockey Twitter. I remember once I was at a dinner event with Elliot Friedman, who like blew the person's mind by having a portobello mushroom burger. They still called it a burger. It was a giant ass mushroom on a bun. For the record, speaking of different types of sandwiches, a hot dog is not a sandwich; it's a taco. Just on the side. I need to get that out there.
I feel like we've had this conversation before, and we don't need to get back into that one.
That's fair. I'm just reasserting my point, Joel.
Yeah, and it's just I guess this is the world we live in now, where everyone is just upset over everything all the time, and I don't get it.
For a country where weed is legalized, we really are uptight about shit.
Save big on all your back-to-school needs, all in the Baker's app. Get tender USDA Choice untrimmed beef brisket for $2.99 per pound, limit 2. Then get 10 for $10 during our sale on items like Lay's Stacks, Rice-A-Roni, and Sparkling Ice Sparkling Water, all with your card. Shop these deals at your local Baker's, less than 10 miles away. Or tap the screen now to download the Baker's app to save big today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Prices and product availability subject to change. Restrictions apply. See site for details.